I wanted to talk a little bit about Ubisoft and Farcry Primal. I've stated before that Ubisoft is one of the worst publishers out there in my opinion, and they need to change everything before I start buying any new game they make. And I feel this is because every title that they've come out with recently is a reskin of one from the previous year. Look at every recent Assassin's Creed. If they would take the time to optimize the game and make a new, fun, skill-based combat mechanic, I would start playing those games again. But this isn't about Assassin's Creed. It's about Far Cry Primal. Now I want to make this very clear. This is in no way a review of the game. I never played it and I don't plan on doing so because as a consumer, I feel that Far Cry Primal would be an unsafe purchase for me. Now I played Far Cry 3 and a bit of 4, and I can see that Far Cry Primal is the same game with less stuff. And that's not okay with me. More Far Cry is not a new game, and I wasn't hyped for Far Cry Primal at all. But now that that's out, I'd like to get into it. Far Cry Primal is a game where you are a Neanderthal named Takar, who lives in the year 10,000 BCE. And you're on your own, trying to survive in the area you call home. And you're in constant danger of other tribes, wild animals, and such. Now my first thought when this game was coming out was, oh cool, they're making another Far Cry Blood Dragon. A few hours of gameplay, hopefully pretty humorous, and this is Ubisoft playing around with their engine and recycling maps. Which if this game was another Far Cry Blood Dragon-esque game, I wouldn't have minded them reusing the map from Far Cry 4. But it's not. This game is a full title $60 price tag, and from what I hear, is full of pointless busy work. Harvesting, collecting, and running around shooting animals and other tribesmen. Now why does this bother me? Well, I want to take another game that did something similar to this. Most of you PC gamers who have been PC gamers all your life, or most of your lives, have probably never played this game, but the game is Red Dead Redemption. It is my absolute favorite game of all time, and when I switched to PC gaming, I was distraught that it wasn't on Steam or anywhere else on PC for that matter. Now say what you will about a console exclusive being my favorite game of all time, but Rockstar did an amazing job on it. The AI is better than I've seen even in GTA 5, which saddens me because it seems like developers don't want to improve upon AI anymore. I think Fear, the original Fear, had some of the best AI I've ever seen. And that's really disappointing because we haven't been able to match it, or at least we've been too lazy to try. And when I say it's good, I mean that in Fear, if you shoot at an enemy, they will jump through windows, under trucks, they will plan with each other to get around you and kill you. It actually feels like they have a will to live. But then you look at Skyrim and the NPC combat is stand and shoot or run and swing swords, and that's really sad. Red Dead Redemption is, in my opinion, Rockstar's best game that they've ever made. And there's something I'd like to address in contrast to Far Cry Primal. Now when I saw Far Cry Primal and I realized that it wasn't going to be another Blood Dragon, but a full-on title, I remember wondering to myself, okay, what is Ubisoft going to add so that it makes up for everything it's losing? I mean, obviously it can't have submachine guns or wingsuits, so what's it going to replace it with? And I was sadly disappointed when I found out that that was nothing. They weren't adding anything, and I hear a lot of people white knight this and say, well, you can ride tigers, but is that enough for me? I mean, think about it. You had machine guns, you had wingsuits, you had cars, grenades, flamethrowers, fiery explosions, and that game, with all of that, cost $60, or at least it did on day one. And now you have a new game without any of that. You have about 5 weapons if I'm being generous. This includes bows, clubs, spears, and throwables, and these are not very interesting weapons. But that's the gist of them. You can upgrade them to get better bows and spears, but that's it. And I'm not saying I don't understand that the game was inspired of the date 10,000 BCE, but it's not my fault they decided to make it that year. If they couldn't add enough to replace everything they took out, why in the world should I defend the game with such a weak counterargument? That's like saying I'm going to take CSGO and make every playable character a monkey. Now the only projectile you have is monkey poop. Nothing else, no different weapons, no grenades, just monkey poop. And you know what? I'm sure we've seen something like that on Steam Greenlight at one point or another, and it doesn't make it on Steam, because it's not game-worthy. So why can Ubisoft do it? In all fairness, I equated their game to a monkey throwing poop, and of course I know it has a bit more substance than that, but let's move on to the game I want to compare it to. Red Dead Redemption is GTA set back 100 years in the past. The year is 1911, and you play as a character named John Marsden. Once an outlaw, he is sent by the government to track down, imprison, or kill his former gang, and when he does this, he's allowed to see his family once again. Now the game is set back in the Wild West, and what do you know? No submachine guns, no cars, no rocket launchers, but you know what? You ride horses. You have older six-shooters, rifles, Molotovs. The game added what it lost, and it fit the setting. It never felt like it lacked or removed the fun, because the game replaced those things, and did it very well. The AI around the map was especially great. You never knew if helping a damsel in distress would get you killed or get you cash. You played the game the way you want, on the right side of the law or the wrong, and there were a ton of mechanics that I have never and don't think I will ever see in GTA, because they don't need to be there. GTA 5 never needed to compensate for missing items, but Red Dead Redemption and Far Cry Primal did, and Far Cry came up short. An easy way to ensure that this did not happen was just to make it another Blood Dragon game. Nobody would have minded a 3 to 7 hour campaign where you get to play around in the Far Cry 4 map in an older setting, but the fact that they reused the map in a full title release displays laziness. And a developer like Rockstar, From Software, or Platinum Games, they have respect for themselves. Too much respect, I'd say, to pull something like this. And that's the reason I don't get hyped for Ubisoft games. It's not like I hate Ubisoft. They were once one of my top favorite companies. I love the Tom Clancy series and the Assassin's Creed series, and Ubisoft always had a good one for me, but they just don't care anymore, so why should I? Some may say that you can't compare one game to another, and I'll say that's fair, but we do it all the time. Every time we talk about a new game, we say, well, it wasn't as good as Battlefront 2, or it had less content than The Sims 3, or we don't like it as much as Dark Souls 1. And the reason we do this is because we want our games to get better. We don't want them to become a mediocre flatline, so we get defensive when someone talks bad about it. But the only way for Ubisoft to improve, the only way for anyone to improve, is to show them what we like. Show them that the games they used to make is a good standard. When Ubisoft made Blood Dragon, I remember thinking, this game is fun. It's short, and it shows me that this company really loves video games. I don't feel that from them anymore, and until I do, there's no reason to purchase their software. I am sure that there's a publisher or series that you love that has sank over time, and I can understand how you want to help them, and if that's true, you need to be vocal. If a game isn't up to snuff, you have to say it, because if they get to a point where they just start recycling games, it's half our fault. There are a lot of fanboys out there that will defend every Call of Duty game that comes out, but you have to try to be objective as possible if you want your favorite series to remain a novelty. I love GTA, I love Saints Row, I loved the Assassin's Creed series, and I love Legend of Zelda, but if there's something that you don't like, something that seems unfair or scummy, instead of white knighting for the company, try to criticize, because being critical is a way of showing you care.